two ninjas spoiling movies. Yeah. And Brandon Collins. That's me. It's just a brand for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! Haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Who's the master? Well, that's your warning. And if you get pissed, it's all your fault. Ooh, 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 ooh.
What's up, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes? It's your boy Eddie Collins,
Guys, this is Justin Brown.
and we are Medium Popcorn. But you already knew that because you pushed the play. You heard that beautiful sultry theme song. I don't know if it's sultry. I don't know what sultry means, but it is true to the name though. We will be spoiling the hell out of this movie because we're talking about Twisters, the brand new movie starring Glenn Powell. You got Daisy Edgar Jones, who I'd never heard of before this movie, Anthony Ramos, and Brandon Pereira from that Nope movie, and directed by Lee Isaac Chung as his follow-up to Minari, which is a huge pivot, almost as drastic as, I mean, that's almost like Ryan Coogler going from Fruitvale Station to Black Panther versus going to Creed. This is a huge jump to go from Minari to this, even though there's a lot of those independent film sensibilities that were in this movie that hit sometimes and then sometimes made us roll our eyes. But this movie is interesting because it's it's not really a sequel. It has an Easter egg regarding the Dorothy, but other than that, it's not related. Because at first I thought, I'm like, oh, her mom's gonna be Helen Hunt. Not at all. Like played by the great Mara Turney, who I hadn't seen in a while, and she still looks pretty good. Still looks pretty good. Yeah, News Radio. That's right. Shit. I forgot she was on News Radio.
Yeah.
Along with Andy Dick and Joe Rogan and the great Phil Hartman.
Yes, indeed. Phil Hartman.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yep.
That's sad. Anyways, but this movie stars Kate Cooper, who is a meteorologist and storm chaser. We open with her. She's in college and she's with a bunch of other students. Grad school, that's right. Because she's thinking about going for a PhD, right? She needs this grant and stuff, and she's with her boyfriend and a few other folks, including the young actress Kiernan Shippak, who is from the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, as well as Mad Men, and it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, the storm experiences. Mind you, okay, let's back up. Justin and I saw this at a screening for 4K, so it's very immersive. We got drifted around a lot. My neck still hurts. I had a tension headache all last night.
A lot, guys.
Yeah, we got drifted off heavily. And we were surrounded by influencers and all these people because apparently Justin signed us up for a focus group. Typically, when I go to a press screening, they just show the movie and they're like, "Hey, enjoy yourself. Tell us what you thought maybe at the end."
But first of all, Brandon, how dare you? Second of all, we got an invite for it. It's an invite only thing. And apparently with the invite, we also got an extra show on top of the movie that we got to see. Now, so apparently there was some industry people, but then a lot of influencers there. And with the influencers, they knew what to expect because they came ready with tripods and lights
and ring lights and shit.
And so there was a moment with the 40X where they're like, we're gonna show you like a little movie that's gonna like a little preview, which is kind of gonna explain 40X and things like that. It's gonna come with this little thing, and then they're gonna show the trailer for Twisters.
Yep.
In 40X, seats gonna be moving, water spraying, and all that kind of stuff. And there's just like, we would, if you guys want to film, stuff like that, feel free to do so. The second time we showed a trailer is like, don't
film yourself. We'll film you.
Yeah, we're gonna film you. And then
they had some people on God mics and shit. I was like, are we being watched? What is happening? What'd you do to me?
It's like it almost felt like the Jetsons. Like somebody pressed a button and just like fucking lights and shit just started coming out of nowhere. And there was this woman sitting up in the same row as us, and all of a sudden this tripod came out and her light goes on, and she's just sitting there just fixing her titties. just fixing the titties. I'm just looking. I'm just like, what is going on? It was the wildest movie going experience I had. I mean, once the movie started, everything was fine. No one was, doing lights or
Yeah.
anything. But like, it was just, I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, it felt like we were at a regular AMC because the movie didn't start until about 40 minutes after its expected start time. So that was a lot of fun. And then I didn't hear that they were going to show the trailer twice. So when they started playing it again, I'm like, wait, are we going to actually see the movie? Or they're just going to keep showing us the trailer to get our reactions? And it's like,
And the
how
guy
many
said
times can we play the
like
Twisters trailer?
3 hours of the trailer.
It's insane. But yeah, we eventually did get to the movie. And once the movie got started, I mean, that was an intense opening. I mean, they get caught up in the storm because Kate, she's wrong in her estimation of where the tornado is going to go, what direction it's going to go. They end up getting right in the middle of it, and basically they get fucked up and they have to abandon their car.
Hold on. We got to take a step back.
Okay.
Because Kate's thing was she thinks that using like some like polymers and like kind of like the shit that you find in diapers, that they can actually stop a tornado by actually kind of soaking up the moisture, by soaking up a lot of the moisture, which would then which basically is taking out like the power behind the tornado, how it's created or how it keeps going. So to try to prove this theory, they have their car, they have all these this mixture set up on the back, and they have Dorothy, which is kind of call back to the original Twister film.
Yep.
And they're going, they have to put it in the track of a tornado. They're right where they need to be. It's just like, but the tornado is actually, she's like, wait a second. They're like, where is it? They think it's going this way. He's like, oh shit, it's actually right behind us. So it's behind them and it's coming towards them. So they're doing what they have to do, but they don't realize that this tornado is a much larger tornado than they anticipated.
Okay, huge. They called it EF1, EF5, yeah.
He's the F5, also known as a Brock Lesnar. So the F5 is Brock Lesnar's finishing move in wrestling. So that leads to the fact is it's like, this shit ain't gonna work. Yeah, you in danger, girl.
Mm-hmm.
They start running, and one of the slow friend,
he immediately gets sucked up. Yep.
Yeah, he immediately gets sucked up by the tornado. Their little white girlfriend, she's they're like kind of under an underpass, and like a tree or something comes and hits her. She gets sucked up by the tornado. Her boyfriend at the time, this I think kind of ethnically ambiguous. Is he black? And
he was Hispanic? He was brown. That's all we knew. He was brownish.
Yeah. Well, he white now because he pale as hell after that tornado sucked his ass up too, and she's the only one that survived. With the exclusion of Anthony Ramos's character, who was actually taking data in another truck, which was close, but not necessarily close.
That actor, by the way, his name is Daryl McCormick, and he's black and Irish, kind of like your man over here. There we go.
What was that?
All right. And so we flash forward a few years later because Kate's all fucked up. She's traumatized from this. Yeah. And now she's just working as a meteorologist, scanning storms and stuff like that. It's a safe desk job away from the storms and almost getting sucked away and see your life. I mean, because once you win a tornado, you flying, right? Those have to be some wild final thoughts. Like, because you can't even breathe, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like they probably, that tornado, the air is not necessarily probably that great, and they probably suffocate before they even. Well, then it's also you're flying around in there
with debris and stuff. Yeah,
you just get slammed by all sorts of cars, and
I mean that's what happens a lot too. Like when they're driving the roads with the tornadoes, like things are just falling everywhere. Like I will say the tornado scenes in this movie were very impressive, and that's not just because it was 4K. I mean, it was 40X, yeah. It was like actually like very impressive, like the practical effects, or at least that's if they pull that off with CGI, that's even more impressive. But it felt like a lot of practical effects and like stunt driving and stuff like that, which was made it a little bit more immersive and terrifying at times. Um, but it's still some white people shit. Like I'm not going to actively, unless I'm getting paid 8 figures, I'm not actively chasing a tornado.
Buku bucks.
Because didn't I ask you after the movie? I'm like, how would you think storm chasers make? Like
nothing.
Yeah,
they had that ethnically ambiguous girl who had that nasty ass dreadlocks up on her head, and she almost got it. She almost got it.
Yeah, Sasha Lane is that actress's name.
And yeah, they things didn't look good. They didn't look good. It looked like they haven't washed in a good amount of time. Also, on top of that, they were staying in like a motel, like a $10 motel.
Well, to be fair, they're like all
that Kate was washing up in.
Yeah. Well, they're in middle America, like in very rural areas. You know what I mean?
Ohio. I mean,
yeah, Oklahoma. And for me, like I kept, this is me being my like people probably might say like, oh, this is like an elitist point of view, but I'm like, I would not live in those areas that are tornado heavy, especially in the world of global warming. I gotta get out of Dodge because it's just a matter of time before, similar to what's happening in California, before these places are, especially given like the politics and which way it's leaning and stuff. Insurance companies are going to start saying, "I'm not insuring you." Or we can, but we're going to take you're going to take everything, which is kind of what was happening with this company that Anthony Ramos is working for. So basically, years later, Javi, played by Anthony Ramos, who was part of Kate's crew, before he was on the side trying to take measurements and data when the rest of the crew got killed. Obviously, he and Kate survived. They have survivor's remorse about that because they talk about it a little bit. And Javi's trying to recruit her for a week to help him chase storms so they can get data to help them be able to better accurately predict when tornadoes will occur and stuff like that, right? And he's kind of being like, he's not even being coy because she's just not even asking enough questions about his company. She asked him, like, in passing, like, oh, how'd you get the funding for this? He's like, oh, contracts, and I got some investors, blah, blah, blah. We later learned that he's working with this guy named Scott, who's played by the future Superman, David or Cornswet, and this other big business guy who basically, it seems like they purposely scope out people that have damaged homes and property and businesses, and they swoop in to be like, hey, we'll pay you all cash for your property.
Yeah.
And then they become like these, they just acquire all this land and shit like that for whatever purpose, right?
Real estate companies, they just come
very predatory.
Yeah.
And so, but Kate doesn't know that yet. So she, because she still has a hunger for storm chasing, crazy white girl shit. She joins Javi and agrees for a week to help him out and stuff like that. So she meets his crew. David Cornswet, his character Scott's immediately like skeptical of her. He has very like very like I don't like her just because she's a girl energy. Like he's just like, oh, we're just listening to this lady now. Like clearly, I mean, she just took out a fucking dandelion and was able to figure out which accurate direction to go.
So that's the corny part of this movie. Is just like there are some moments where it's just like, okay, so where's this? Is the storm coming or going? Yada yada. And she's just like, she like closes her eyes and then she looks around. She's just like, there. And the next thing you know is like she knows exactly what this tornado is gonna do.
I mean, I think that's what these movies are all about, though. It's like nothing beats nature and understanding nature. Like even no matter how scientific you try to get with it, because something similar happened in the first movie where Bill Paxton picks up some dirt and he sees the way it goes, and then like Carrie Elves' character is like, days of sticking your head in the dirt are over because technology is king or whatever, and it's like similar themes in this one. It just, like you said, it was a little bit more corny. Like there's a period where they're like at a rodeo and like a leaf ball's in her hand and she just looks up at the sky, and I was like, all right, is she clairvoyant? Like what's happening here? Like it felt like Final Destination.
It's like the tornado looks at us just like, Kate, you in danger, girl.
She's like, the winds are getting stronger. It's getting the air is sweet. We need to leave. Like, what? I mean, it is insane. Like that rodeo scene was insane because it's like y'all, no one sounded alarms, but right before the tornado literally landed on people, like
Well, I mean, but that's the thing. The tornado can develop so quickly. You know, you don't really necessarily have the time.
that's true.
Like tornadoes are terrifying. I think that's
Oh, for
one
sure.
of the terrifying things that the earth has decided to do to us.
Yeah, Tati was asking me like because in Michigan, so Michigan we didn't have like alarm like to my recollection we didn't have like alarms, we didn't have like sirens or anything like that, but our TVs would go to that like this like blue hue and being
Mhm.
like in terrifying white font like tornado warning, like go
Yeah.
somewhere safe, right? That's what we had. What did y'all have growing up? Did you ever have any tornado warnings or anything like that?
I mean, like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is not really a tornado zone. You know, this is more, hurricanes, blizzards, all
Mm,
that kind of stuff. You know,
got it.
so like, I don't know too much about tornado. Listen, tornadoes and earthquakes, and I would say tornadoes even more than earthquakes. That's something I don't want to be a part of.
Oh yeah. So that earthquake a few months ago that freaked you out, huh?
Actually, not really,
Did you
but
feel it?
like, yeah, I did.
Okay.
I definitely felt it, and I remember when it happened because remember what in 2000 like 11 or 12 we had an earthquake and like I was up in Jersey, and I remember the whole building, like the apartment building, kind of swayed and things like that. I was just like, oh, what the hell is that? I thought I was about to pass out or something like that.
Mm,
When the earthquake happened a few months ago, like, and I had that feeling again. I knew what it was, but I didn't say anything to Paul because I didn't want her to worry.
got it.
'Cause I was kind of just like, I was like, oh shit, I think that was an earthquake. I think that was a fucking earthquake. I was like, I'm just gonna remain calm. That's the weird thing about having a family. You just like, I gotta hold my shit together for the people that I love.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta keep a straight face.
And you actively are lying to them and lying to yourself about the situation. Everything's it's just burning around you. Everything.
Everything's fine, family. I'll protect you. Ah! It's just yeah. I was like, yeah. In tornadoes, you can't protect everybody
Yeah,
because once one nigga gets sucked up, it's like, well, unless unless the Lord blesses me, I'm gonna get sucked up too.
yeah.
Like,
It's like, listen, him downstairs. Are we gonna go to? I don't know.
well, technically they upstairs because of the the velocity.
No, but they're gonna be downstairs once they land.
That's why people never get recovered because
Mm-hmm.
they go splat on the ground and just
Yeah, or they're just covered in all the debris, and then they're also can drop miles and miles away. And obviously we don't want to be insensitive to, because like
that's terrifying, man.
yeah, that's a terrifying, like, harrowing death, to have.
I will say, if this movie is a hit, I can see more disaster movies making a comeback.
Oh yeah, well,
Because I was
also
watching this and I'm like, the different tornadoes, especially the one that went through the fucking oil rig or whatever the fuck that was,
fire
which was
tornadoes, fire tornadoes.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Just such a massive span, like expanse. It just took up so much space. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. And they're trying to outrun. I think wasn't Anthony Ramos driving in reverse too at that scene or some
Uh,
shit? Or that might have been
no,
a
no, no,
different, that might have been a
no.
different scene. That was in the first time when they had the storm. And that shit was crazy.
Yeah.
There's some really intense like scenes, like action scenes in this movie where I was like, oh yeah, like it could be cool to go back to disaster movies like this, but also terrifying because of global warming, climate change, which
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think that we're going to see a lot of these disaster movies start coming up, mainly because of the fact is that we have we've been having harsher weather, and these things are starting to become a real threat these days. And like, while yeah, people don't want to think about this stuff, this is also kind of in a real kind of morbid way, a way for people to learn what you should and should not do.
mm,
Because like, those people jump in the car and then try to drive off. It's like, hey, we need to
yeah,
go
that was
to
crazy.
go around. Yeah, like all that kind of stuff is, how they got scooped up. People are gonna look at this and be like, maybe I shouldn't try to drive away because you can't outrun some things.
Yeah, I loved after the rodeo when that one woman was in a motel, like, this ain't a tornado. Like everyone's just freaking out. It's like, yo, do you not look out the window? You see that lighting, you see the wind, you see things flying about. You just like, it's just a regular, like, regular storm. Nothing to
Nuts.
worry about.
Nuts. Nuts and bolts.
But I was surprised, like, it must have been a political reason why they didn't mention climate change. Because they're saying in this movie that it's like a historical amount of back-to-back tornadoes, but they don't actually attribute it to anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just want to stay away from it.
I guess, but that's something important to talk about because I think us not, and I get it, it's art and like fantastical and stuff like that, but I do think it's important because, like I said, at some point, insurance companies are going to stop insuring these communities. They're going to be like, it's too risky. Like, I'm not going to keep taking the L financially because you live in bumfuck wherever that constantly is in tornadoes alley or whatever, right? Yeah. Like I said, for me,
move somewhere that's more expensive.
Well, that's the problem, right? It's like it's easy for me to be like, why don't you just move? But it's like, well, how am I going to get there? How am I going to set up? Like, how am I going to make a living and stuff? It's
like, look at people can't get jobs and stuff. Listen, let's not go down the this road, but like, there's a bigger problem, and like, but also denying the fact that there is a problem is a huge problem. Yep. Because that means that nobody's trying to fix anything.
Exactly.
And when nobody's trying to fix anything, eventually somebody who has money is going to come along and just say, well, fuck you guys then. Because that's what they do. Capitalism, y'all.
Yep. Now, we haven't even talked about him yet, but Glenn Powell pops up in this movie as a storm wrangler.
No, a
tornado wrangler. That's right. And it says, if you feel it,
chase it.
If you feel it,
chase it.
So the reason why Justin and I keep doing that is because of that fucking trailer that they showed us back to back. And that's a big part of the trailer. So by the time the second trailer came around, we were just saying the shit with him because we're like, are we losing our minds? What is going on in this fucking screening? But I do have to say, and Glenn Powell, I think, is definitely coming into his own as like a movie star. I think this is one of those roles where definitely like it's going to put him on people's maps. I think like he's going to be on, if he's not already on people's radars because of Top Gun Maverick and maybe Hitman, I think he would be now because there's one scene where he's just in a cowboy hat, a white t-shirt, and it's raining. They didn't need to have that scene. He could have already been in the car. They have him just walk into a car looking very somber.
Again, Brandon, we saw this in 4DX, and not only were they giving us like the rain, the movement, but they are also just pumping in a little bit of Glenn Powell's sweat. Yep. And I felt it. I also like, you would get the wind go by bash. I could have swore I heard Glenn Powell's voice like right over my ear to say, don't you think I'm sexy? Like that's what I was getting from this, that experience. See this in 4DX because you will get a little mist of Glenn Powell's sweat blown upon your face, and it will arouse you.
Yep. I think the thing that Glenn Powell and Ryan Gosling have going for them is that they look like dudes who were definitely odd looking, probably in their preteens and teens, and grew into being really handsome, good looking guys.
I don't know. Glenn Powell doesn't give me like he looked odd. You know what?
Maybe
Glenn Powell looks like a guy.
Good observation, Justin.
He actually looked like a dude that I'd hang out with.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like he actually looks like I don't. I've never met the guy. We haven't done any interviews with him or anything like that. But he actually looks like he gives me the vibe like Glenn Powell's a cool dude and he's a good guy.
And he's from Texas too.
Yeah, it's like maybe it's the smile, but it's like
it's the smile. About him. Yeah. It's the smile, dude, for sure. Like, cause I think the smile, like the Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, like there's certain stars when they smile. Like I remember I don't know if you saw Challengers, But there's that Jack O'Connell actor who's like blowing up. He's like in the new Knives Out and stuff like that. He was apparently on The Crown, really good there. I didn't see that, but he had a smile where I'm like, this dude's gonna be a star. Like chicks are gonna love this guy. And like Glenn Powell when he's smiling in Top Gun Maverick, I'm like, that's a movie star smile right there.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Teller, he's the lead in this movie, but he can't. His smile is not like Glenn
Yeah,
Powell's smile.
yeah.
I'm
He
sorry,
doesn't have that.
but
And that's
yeah.
like somebody just having it is.
And it's easy for you to be jealous of this guy, like because he's a very good looking dude, but he's also a social media movie star. Like I mean, not movie star, but superstar. Like he's got this robust YouTube channel where they live stream him blowing up fireworks inside tornadoes and shit. Brandon Pereira is part of that crew. Same as Sasha Lane, who's dreads that you detest. But they're actually smart. That's the thing. Is like he's actually pretty smart. Like he went to school to be a meteorologist. Like he knows his stuff. And so it's very easy for Kate to assume that he's a dummy who's just like, I'm a cowboy, boom, 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 tornadoes. And he's like, no, I'm actually smart. Like, I think you're just like seeing the stereotype, but I'm actually a good dude.
Well, I mean, but that's it's weird because like that's also the nature of the beast. Because you could be a smart person, but sometimes you have to dumb yourself down
Yes.
in order for the mainstream to catch on and listen to you. And it's funny because like when I was at the Upright Citizens Brigade, I used to say this all the time. It's just like everybody's just like the higher mind, the higher mind. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, there's people in that audience that are not the higher mind. And it's nothing against them. It's like you need to make content that everybody can understand and immediately get so they're on board. And I think the big problem with maybe it's just improv or just comedy as a whole, it got to this point where it's just like we're speaking to the most intelligent people out here. It's just like, but not everybody is like super intelligent. It's like you need to speak to the layman because they're the ones that really matter. They're the ones that are buying tickets. It's not, these NYU kids like
Yeah.
they don't give a fuck. A lot of them don't even have the money because they're trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. It's just a weird thing that like people need to understand. Is like that, the regular everyday person is, the person that you're really trying to sell to.
Yeah, it's not about the elites or yeah, very valid point there. But
But I was wrong. What the fuck do I know?
but yeah, Tyler, he sells merch and stuff. He's got a bunch of like avid followers who follow him like near tornadoes and shit like that. I'm like, none of y'all gotta work. Like, at least Tyler making money when he's recording. Like, what are y'all doing? But yeah, so he his crew and Hobby's crew, they're like constantly competing for getting around storms and stuff like that. And the first storm they encounter, Kate miscalculates. Well, she doesn't miscalculate. She gets triggered basically when she gets up close with a tornado because they have to her and Javi's truck have to face the tornado so they can get the readings from that angle because it's supposed to be a triangular setup with different like pods that are reading data at the same time and shit, right? And she basically freaks out and drives away from the tornado.
Well, but that's the thing is like also I'm just like, hey Javi, you know that Kate that Kate had went through some real fucking crazy shit.
Yep.
And she saw 3 of her friends get killed by a tornado. And this is her first time back. And you want her in the car with you in front of a fucking tornado because the last time she was in front of a tornado, she lost everything and it completely destroyed her entire life. Maybe put her, with one of the guys who are hanging out on the side of the tornado. What about that? What about that? And then she can talk to you through a mic, through a walkie-talkie, and be like, "Hey, no tornado's moving this way. What you're gonna need to do is, such," or direct him, remotely from a car or something like that. It's like you are a terrible friend to put her in a situation and then start to get mad, and then looking at her like, oh, bitch, you messed this up for us. I'm just like, you already knew it was up. You know her trauma.
Yeah, I think that could have been played a few different ways. And he played it more like subtly, and like he was like taking the heat on the phone from his supervisor, whoever. because it would have been so egregious for him to like get mad at her, like verbally, like shout at her or whatever. Because it's like to your point, like, yo, you just put her in like the most traumatic potential like experience ever. And, like the fact that you didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, what do we do? Like you're driving straight into towards the nigga. And
Like,
also, it's
what
like
are you
you
like?
can't
What are you
miss this
doing?
thing. Look at it; it's right there.
Hey, Kate, come on. I need help with this thing. I'm just like, no, nigga. Help yourself.
It
Help
was
yourself.
insane.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It was insane.
I was
And then you got
like Brandon, like if you let's say it's you and I, and you had some sort of traumatic thing that happened in your life and whatever. If I took you out there and did what Javi did to Kate and put you in that situation, I would be the worst fucking friend that
dude,
you
that would
could
be
think.
like you. That'd be like I have definitely a fear of whales, right? And my mom traumatized me when we went to Alaska, took me on a whale singing tour. I was freaking the fuck out while all these white people, my mom, like, ooh, I'm like, it just takes one whale tail to fuck us all up, right?
Mhm.
And you're just like, hey, B, I'm gonna take you on a little trip, and then we go whaling. We're not even just going like whale sing. We're trying to kill these motherfuckers. like, isn't this fun, Brandon? Like,
And I'm riding on the back of the whale, a la that stupid fucking movie with Zendaya. The
oh,
fucking
Dune.
Dune, yeah. I'm riding on the back of the whale like, stop, Brandon.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Didn't see a
it's
Dune reference coming, but
yeah, neither did I.
so they have the one botched attempt, and then we see Tyler and his whole truck. So his truck can drill into the ground, so he's able to sustain the strong winds from a tornado and be able to record himself in a tornado as they're shooting the fireworks or what have you and stuff. And that's like why he has such a huge following and stuff like that, and why they call him the tornado wrangler, even though he's not wrangling anything. He's just like surviving. Like it's not really
Survive.
it's and so basically we follow these two like crews who have different objectives, but they're looking for storms, right, for various they're for various reasons. um that guy Scott continues to be antagonistic towards Kate, which I was like, I feel like Kate's not asking enough questions, and that was what was a little frustrating about her whole story arc with like Hobby's crew and stuff like that. And we didn't get to really meet his crew, right? So we don't really know which way the philosophy they actually stood on. Like, were they all about the science to help people, or were they like, no, this is a business. I'm just doing this data science shit for this corporation that's predatorial. You know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
but I mean, even at the same time, even with Hobby, because like Hobby's just like, we can start to be able to track these tornadoes and yada yada. It's like, but at the other end, I need the funding, to be able to do this. But like, if you need the funding to do this, right? But you can track tornadoes, that means that you have some sort of end goal, right? It's like, I'm gonna use this funding to, but once I'm able to track these tornadoes, I'm gonna be able to take this and then, you know, then I can really help people. So it's like there's like some there's just an end game to to this madness, like to
yeah,
like I guess this this money making scheme, right? That would make more sense for that character, but like it seemed like he was just playing both sides, or he was just telling her what she wanted to hear just so he could but like, why is the data important to him? So like
yeah.
that's the one thing that really kind of bothered me about his character. I'm like, what do you really want?
I think I think it's he was someone who truly did believe in his mission and was willing to compromise in order to eventually get to down the road to what he actually wants the data for. But it's like, what ends to a mean, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's possible that he would start getting corrupted by the money and
Yeah.
everything, which is the more likely scenario. Especially if Kayla completely cut him off and was just like, fuck you, I don't want to work with you or be associated with you anymore. Because it sounds like they hadn't talked since the incident, basically. And then, he has that blow up where he's like, like my friends died because you won this fucking grant for, your science or whatever. And but then he's like, like he later apologized, like, hey, I was out of pocket, like, we both lost that day, and I just like, I felt guilty because we survived, like, why
Yeah.
us or
Yeah.
whatever. Which it really should be why her, because he was like, he was away and he was in your car. He could have been okay. She
Yeah.
literally like
Well, but
she literally watched everyone but her get sucked up into the vortex of this tornado.
yes, but
That's a real like why me situation.
yeah, but at the same time, is like he was there. Those were his friends, So like,
Yeah,
he's definitely he has everything that she has. Hers may be a little bit more visual and visceral for just for her because like she was like in it and she saw them get snatched away and everything. But like he was very much attached to it, to the same degree that she was. So like I wouldn't discount his like his trauma because I think the trauma that they both had is the same, but it is hers is going to be a little bit deeper because like yeah, she literally watched them, get snatched off, get hit by
yeah.
trees and holding on to her. Next thing there's no motherfuckers being, you know,
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, like those scenes were very effective. Like seeing
yeah,
people get sucked up and like thrown around storms and shit like that, and just the destruction that happens with the twisters, like that was very effective. I think where it kind of would lose me sometimes is when it got a little hokey in the dialogue, or it it is very scientific. There were some times when they were doing the science talk, especially when Kate goes back to her home to like kind of retreat after she learns the true intentions of Hobby's financer stuff. She bonds with her mom Kathy, played by Mara Attorney, and then Glenn Powell pops up like, "Hey, little lady, you told me your town. I figured out I could stalk you and just find your home and shit." And then they get all
you
sciencey.
can't run away from me.
they get they get deep in the weeds with science talk because she shows him her middle school project that she won a award that's like basically reenacts a tornado. And then he discovers her science behind the thing that she was trying to do at the beginning of the movie, where she was trying to, dissolve a tornado. And he's like, "I think we can do this. Your science is on point." Blah 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 blah. The molecules and stuff. My eyes started rolling in the back of my head. I was like, I don't know what's going on. Real quick though, to our question earlier, Lee Isaac Chung said, "I just wanted to make sure that with the movie, we don't ever feel like it is putting forward any message. I just don't feel like movies are meant to be message oriented," which is ironic given his semi-autobiographical film Minari had a lot of messages there. But it's probably the
Well,
studio's
yeah,
like, "Hey, don't touch on it."
what's
They
that?
probably told the studio probably told him and like the screenwriter Mark Lee Smith, like, "Hey, don't talk about climate change.
Yeah.
Don't do
I guess so. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with
it." Yeah.
staying away from something because you just don't want to be
Yeah.
you know hyperbolic. But
There's definitely gonna be another one where there's a tornado in New York though, because they remember they had that quick line like, "Oh, there's never been a tornado in New York," and we both looked at each other like that. We thought maybe like that might be where they go, but didn't happen in this movie. But I'm like, oh, but if there's a sequel,
somebody's gonna make a tornado in New
yeah,
York.
I think you have to explain that that's global warming. Like you can't just be like, "Hey, this is a weird anomaly." But
And there's no way that the destruction wouldn't be like devastating. Like it would kill millions.
oh yeah, for sure. I
New
mean,
York, a New York City tornado would be beyond devastating
mm,
because you have nowhere to go.
yeah.
Oh, you're gonna hide in your what
Penthouse
10
apartment.
story 10-story building, your 50-story building. This is like out the windows. Out the window you go.
Mm, yep,
You ain't got no walls.
just like
The sucking sound. The tornado
Now there is a British journalist that's following Tyler's crew, and later discovers that Kate's actually the story because of her background. Like, and he's the one, I guess, that's able to research Kate's backstory, and so that's also why Tyler goes to, um, Kathy's farm where Kate's retreated, because he's like, "Hey, I actually learned about what happened to you and your friends, and sorry about that." Because before he's kind of like, "Who is this chick?" Like, what's her whole deal and stuff like that. He's kind of like teasing her and stuff like that, but without having the full context. And so I appreciate like they actually were building up that story, everything like that. Daisy Edgar Jones is a cute actress. Um, I think she did a good job as Kate, kind of carrying this movie, especially like given I was like she's an unknown actor to me. I never watched Normal People on Hulu, so I was like okay, like I don't know if this is a breakout role for her as much as it is for Glenn Powell in a leading role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, Anthony Ramos, I thought was fine, even though at the end, I'm not gonna say the scene because I think there's some stuff we need to let the audience just enjoy for themselves. But there's a scene at the end that had basically all like the black and brown people like, oh damn, why they do this man like this?
We all laughed.
Yeah, it was everybody. It was everybody.
We laughed.
It was unintentionally funny. It was bad
because and like Brandon,
he's trying so hard to get with this white girl
about like listen, there's a level of thirst that a man could have, for a woman.
Yeah,
but Anthony Ramos' character crossed the line of thirstiness.
Yeah, Javi's thirst for Kate was on level with, like I said, Finn's towards Rey in Rise of Skywalker. It was just
which then led to somebody's thirsty when their mouth goes crooked.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. There's an unfortunate scene where Javi is very much like, is there still a chance? It's like, nigga, you see Tyler, right? Like Glenn Powell, I talked about this yesterday after the screening. I'm like, Glenn Powell has this perfect like 5 o'clock shadow on his face that's like perfectly aligned every fucking scene, which means that Tyler, the character, is perfectly manic, like perfectly stylizing himself every fucking day to look that gorgeous with that 5 o'clock shadow. I'm like, that's some narcissistic shit.
And mind you, he's staying in like $2 motels, and he's sleeping in his car. He's under a birch tree that fell over because of the tornado. So he's just like, looking just perfect.
I mean, they do play into like he is egotistical. Like when he gives Kate's mom one of his T-shirts, I thought that was funny because they're like still like, oh, he's still kind of like self-centered about just
but the funny thing about that was, so like he gave it a T-shirt, but then he also realized that it was weird.
Yeah, he made a beat where he's like, oh shit, I should have done that. But that character, like that character in real life, Kathy is like, oh thank God, because she probably thought her daughter was never gonna get married or whatever, right? And she's like, and she gonna be with this gorgeous man. Oh, I'm gonna have some cute grandbabies.
Well, what killed me is she was steady trying to get her daughter pounded out. She's just you're staying for dinner. Yeah, he's sleeping here. He's like in the guest bedroom on the 4th floor.
I mean, at the very least, she's like, I can get a grandbaby. It may not be legit, but we got this big farm.
Wait, it may not be legit
because they may not get married and stuff like that if she gets knocked up.
Child isn't legit.
I know, but you know what I mean. Like in regards to under the eyes of God. This clearly is me projecting my own shit.
You know what, man? I was staying away from it. I was gonna let you live. I'm glad that you actually.
I'm like, Lord, I'm a real person. I deserve love. Anyways, so basically Tyler and Kate, they end up. Tyler basically is like, hey, I'm gonna help you because the problem, the problem with the ideologies of Tyler and Javi. It's not really a problem, but the difference is that Tyler genuinely is like, I love this shit. Like our crew, they were nerds about this shit. We love this stuff. So it's easy for them to pivot to helping Kate, practice her science and see, hey, can we actually stop these things? Yeah. Like to save people. Like, because yes, we're going into these things for entertainment, but actually if we can start saving people, that's equally as good because we can record that shit and we still meet our objective, right? And so the crew actually helps her try to experiment with like her science and stuff like that. And then there's this huge third act where fucking huge storm is just decimating this one town. Half the crew like ends up in this movie theater where that's getting ripped apart, homage to like Twister. and stuff, but it's Frankenstein instead of The Shining. And that was crazy because I'm like, oh, everybody gonna die in this. Like,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
had debris from a movie theater and a town just flying around, like, and they were just opening up doors constantly. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, y'all trying to die? I was actually expecting more of their crew to die.
So did I. I'm surprised that none of.
Mind you, this is after Javi has decided to go help them, prevent, warn the town and stuff like that and get people to safety. After he leaves Scott, Superman, in the middle of the road where you were like, well, he gonna be dead, right? Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
never
he's
saw him
dead.
again, so we don't know.
He left him out almost pretty much in the middle of a field alone, and he has no transportation, and a tornado is bearing down behind him. He's gone.
He can run
He
as fast
can't
as he
run
can.
fast. It's over for that guy. It's just like, Javi, what the fuck?
Yeah, if he would, yeah, we'll see.
Javi
We'll see
killed the guy.
if there's a Twisters 2 or a Twisters 3 or whatever the fuck they're gonna call it, or Twisted again. It'll be interesting to see if Scott comes back with a vengeance.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if Scott comes back, he's the god of fucking tornadoes, and he's actually directing tornadoes at Javi. I was just like, he just killed Scott.
Yeah. Also, Kate should have definitely. How spoilery do we want to get on this? Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do. This storm is so bad that Kate's just like, fuck it. I'm gonna risk my life to try to unleash my science medicine into this tornado and dissipate it.
But at the same time, at this point, she might as well have, because she's gonna die anyway. She hung out.
That's true. That's true. Because this is all movie magic, folks. If Kate hadn't been able to magically eventually dissipate this tornado, everybody gonna be gone. There ain't gonna be no sequel because unless it's about Mara Attorney's character becoming a storm chaser because she's gone crazy from losing her daughter. Like, it was not going to be good. But Kate, yeah, she's able to successfully get the science stuff into the storm, and it eventually dissipates. Even though her car has been rocked her over several times, and like I said, car stunts were pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
because that truck got jacked up. I mean, there's a lot of trucks that got jacked up.
There were many trucks hurt in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But like, nonetheless, like, she survives, and so does the rest of the, both crews. Like, Javi survives, as well as Tyler and his crew. Even though Dreadlocks almost gets sucked up into the tornado, which was a cool action sequence, which reminded me a lot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Remember with the vacuum or the lawnmower? Yeah, it reminded me of that. And for me, I was like, damn, it'd be cool if they did that movie again. That's a movie they could reboot. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah,
that's a movie they really could, and I think with practical effects, it could look really good.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I think with the effects now, it would look amazing.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to give Hollywood more ideas to reboot, because we need more original ideas. Even though, I am impressed that Lee Isaac Chung, he was able to get this movie off the ground, considering how many different iterations this movie went through, and it had a $200 million budget. Minari had a budget of like 1.5 million. So you went from that to jumping to a movie that had 198.1 more million dollars to work with.
Yeah, right. But part of that is going towards cast, and then
mostly effects.
Yeah,
because even Glenn Powell, I feel like his rate, especially when they cast him in this, probably wasn't as high yet.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely higher now, and will be higher after Twisters comes out.
What do you think that Glenn Powell made for this?
Well, I have to say probably like 5-6 mil, and probably some part of the back end.
I think that he probably made like 500,000, and then probably 500,000, and then hopefully he's getting a nice percentage on the back end.
That makes sense. Yeah. I can see that.
Changed so much, they're not giving people that.
That's true. That's true. And kind of going to what I was saying before is like, I think that it's a lot easier for studios, and maybe I said this in our previous recording, it's a lot easier for studios now to be very blunt with talent and be like, hey, this ain't making no money. Like, we're taking it out of theaters, or yeah, we're not going to keep promoting it on the streamer. Like, it is what it is, and hopefully you'll strike on the next one or something like that. I think it's a lot more. I think talent's going to have to be a lot more picky with the opportunities that are given to them, or have to decide like it's just something I wouldn't really pursue anymore, because the chances to fail, it's getting even tougher. You cannot afford to have a bomb in this climate.
Setting you up for success.
What'd you say?
I said it's also partly because the studios aren't setting these these people up for success with their films. Yeah, saying with streamers and everything like that, with the lack of promotion that you see with a lot of films that are out there. Like, bro, I remember back in the day when a film was coming out, that shit was everywhere. But like, you don't see that kind of love be given to films these days.
Well, I also don't know if you and I are where they're advertising these days. Like, I don't go on TikTok. I just find TikTok incredibly stupid, and I know that that's where a lot of people direct their marketing money now.
Yeah,
like I even like for shows, I'm like, I should be advertising on TikTok, but like I just can't bring myself to do it. You know what I mean? Kind of going back to development hell. So originally, Bill Paxton had tried to get a sequel to Twister made for years. After seeing success as a director of films like Frailty, Paxton wanted to direct a modernized telling of the 1925 tri-state tornado that took the lives of 751 people. Paxton, with the help of producer James Cameron, also wanted the film to have an R rating and maintain a realistic depiction of the damages that real tornadoes cause, and planned to be shot in 3D. The film at one point had an unofficial scheduled date for the summer of 2012 under the title Twister 3D, but it was ultimately canceled due to budgetary concerns and years later by Paxton's death in 2017. Let's see, Helen Hunt, who starred in the 1996 film, pitched her own idea for a Twister sequel to Universal in July 2020, with a star involving the science team at an Oklahoma historically black college who would have used her inventions to stop tornadoes. Hunt, who wanted to direct herself and star alongside David Diggs, said her idea briefly entered a development stage, but was dismissed and canceled by the end of 2020. So that would have been an all-black cast chasing after tornadoes. I don't know. I think people would have been like, I like seeing this representation, but fuck out of here.
Tornadoes, I don't know about that one.
David Diggs with that big ass hair, you gonna get sucked up real quick. That's why they gave Anthony Ramos a haircut. They're like, you gotta cut your locks, bro. You don't want to get sucked up in this shit. Production was originally supposed to take place in and around Los Angeles, California, before it was decided by director Lee Isaac Chung, who had grown up in the Midwestern United States, that the film should be shot on location in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and it's also going to be a lot cheaper. Why wouldn't they do that?
Yeah. And then this film was shot on Kodak 35 millimeter film on location, which you can tell. Like we said this after the screening, we were like, that's the closest it's felt like a 90s movie, like, action movie in a long time, because a lot of things are shot on digital. It actually had a feel of like what these kind of movies used to be like, which I think is one of the reasons why I kind of enjoyed it more than I was expecting to.
Yeah, because I expected it to be just CGI, just show, and but like it really, like, and mind you, they could have used a lot of CGI, for it, but whatever they did, it just felt very authentic.
Yes, for sure. And we also have like a fun a cameo in this movie. Like, this is a random aside before I forget, by Paul Scheer from How This Get Made. He pops up at the end because, of course, Kate's like, I'm gonna go back to New York and be a meteorologist and be boring again. And Tyler happens to be at the airport along with Javi, and Javi's like, "Go get her, man!" And Tyler's like, "All right, let me drive my car into the airport parking lot, and let me commit a federal crime." And then he runs into the airport, and they're about to kiss for the first time, and then like the airport's like, "Hey, there's delays because of storms," and we see a storm brewing in the background, and then that's the end. Then you're like, okay, but we later see that Kate's joined Tyler's crew and stuff like that, and the post credits and stuff like that. I didn't see Javi in there, so I don't know if like he's doing his own thing or what have you.
No. I don't think.
He said he was going to look for additional funding and stuff.
Well, she joined Javi's crew at the end, so she's working with him now, but she's the partner.
Okay, so probably they all partnered up. basically. Probably that makes more sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you do want like a not a reckless crew like Tyler, but you want people that aren't afraid, like that they know their science, but also like willing to do the ballsy shit, like drill myself into the middle of a tornado, so you can actually get the shit to get sucked up, and you know for sure it's going into the tornado. Which you and I were both like, you're like, yo, these white people crazy. And they told like backstories. Like Kate's mom was like, oh yeah, when she was a child, she ran out naked when there was a storm into the wheat field. And then Tyler's like, yeah, when I was a kid, I saw a tornado for the first time with my aunt.
Touchdown right in front of it.
Touchdown right in front. And then I realized, oh, I'm supposed to be scared. And then Kate was like, were you scared? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what? Were you scared? Or were you scared of the fact that you weren't scared?
After my aunt showed that she was scared, then I was scared.
Because I'm a sociopath. I can't read emotions. Anyway, so Justin, break down our rating system, baby.
Stop calling me baby. So, guys, you know how we do this. We rate movies back to popcorn, small, medium, large, and the XL for the exceptional. If a film doesn't deserve any popcorn, we throw it in to the stale popcorn pile. We pile piles and piles of stale popcorn on top of it. So, Brandon, we sat down and watched the 2024 blockbuster summer film, Twisters, starring Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, Anthony Ramos, Brandon
Pereira, I think.
Tierney, and Sasha Lane. What say you, sir?
Yeah, this gets a large. I actually really enjoyed the spectacle. I think again there were some corny moments of dialogue and shots and stuff like that, but I actually very surprised by how much I enjoyed this and how much of a spiritual sequel this is to the original. I think if you have no context for the first one, like it's fine. I can go into this like without any of that. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it, and I think I might have actually enjoyed it more in just the regular IMAX, like in the IMAX experience versus the 40X. I think the 40X, we were getting like I know I keep saying it, but we were getting thrown around a lot to the point where it was almost distracting. Like because there's a lot of car, swervings and stuff, and they tried to reenact that, and it just at a certain point physically it just starts hurting. You're just like, I just want to be stationary for a while. But like large in regards to spectacle, performances were really solid, and it was paced pretty well. It was like a little over 2 hours, and it didn't feel. I actually was surprised that it was that long, because I thought that besides Kate going back to her farm, I thought that most of it was pretty well paced. Justin, what's your response?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a large as well. And I would actually 100% agree with your breakdown of this film. I think it was I was very surprised about how much I enjoyed this. I thought that Glenn Powell, I mean, I think he has kind of great chemistry with all those co-stars or women he's on screen with. But him and Daisy, I felt like it was a good flow. It was a good flow with them. Anthony Ramos's six toe energy was very apparent, and I think that it worked and it was hilarious. Um, but just all in all, the I think the story was pretty tight. The effects were subdued enough to the point where you felt like oh shit, like it kind of had like a gritty feel to it, and it didn't feel too CGI and digital. And I 100% agree with you. I think that for me, this is something that I would watch in IMAX as opposed to the 40X, only because yes, it was a little bit distracting because we were being tossed around a lot.
We were being tenderized.
Yeah, and it's like so. At one time, Paul was just like, "Oh man, I would like kind of like to see that as well." But like, she wouldn't have been able to go to this. She would have waited later because it would have been too much for her.
Checking the shit out of her.
Yeah, like it would induce labor immediately. And we're we right there, baby.
Days away, baby.
Any day now. So, but like I think that this is, if you're looking for a fun movie to watch and something that you can, I'm not going to say necessarily turn off, because it's engaging. It's not just explosions and high winds and cars being thrown around. I think this is a real fun movie to watch. But if you're looking for a movie to take small children to, it may be a little too scary for them. Because
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I don't think Jackson would appreciate.
Well, he doesn't like fire, so yeah, he would be freaking out some parts.
Yeah, so but as far as summer blockbuster, I think this is definitely one of them.
Oh, for sure, sure.
Yeah.
They actually probably should have opened the summer with this. I think that could have been a great way to kick the door open. You start this early June, kick the door open in summer, blow it up, and keep going. I think they definitely miscalculated with the release dates for Fall Guy and Furiosa, but at the same time, you need to have a little bit more diversity. And I was a little disappointed in the lack of diversity in Twisters, given like the director. But it is what it is. And again, Glenn Powell.
Ramos, baby.
Yeah, but I mean, he was the third lead. Well, but yeah, Anthony was the third lead in this movie. But I can see why they went with Glenn Powell, just because I think they got him right before he's like at another level where he's a little bit. It's like, can we afford Glenn Powell now? You know what I mean? Like, I think they got him like at a good discount rate, and he did great. He did great in this. There's that cowboy hat in the rain scene. That's the kind of scene where a director's like, I just made you a fucking movie star.
Yep.
Like when Michael Bay filmed Will Smith running with his shirt hanging open, and he told Will Smith, I just made you a fucking movie star. That's the kind of moment you got.
Yep.
So there you have it, folks. That's our bonus review on Twisters. Hope you all enjoy it. Let us know what you thought of our review and the movie itself. Hit us up on social media at Medium P Podcast on all the platforms. You can hit me up specifically at Frodo_Blackens. Come check out my one-man show, Aaron Seinfeld's. Air Seinfeld's. I don't know why I said Aaron Seinfeld's. On Friday, August 23rd at Soho Playhouse. You get tickets for that at FrodoBlackens.com. And Justin, how can people follow you as well as support the show financially if they choose to do so?
Guys, if you would like to follow me at J Brown Did It on all the socials. But support this show, you either go to Patreon, patreon.com/medium popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages. Our entire backlog goes to Patreon. We have bonus shows. We have mini episodes. There's so much content on Patreon. So if you love this show, you want to see it get better, and you just want to follow along and just have a little fun, Patreon is where you need to be. Again, that is patreon.com/medium popcorn.
Follow along, have a little fun. Yeah. All right, folks. We will talk to you all soon. And remember, if you feel it,
Jason.
If you feel it,
Jason.
All right, y'all. Peace.